June is PTSD Awareness Month, and there are many people out there who need a little extra help when it comes to not only addressing it, but also find what works for them to take care of the problems that they may be suffering from.
And as you did sit down also with that aide, I know one of the things I saw you had mentioned on social media was the fact that they don't want other nations to forget about them as these fights continue. Do you feel like they do feel a little forgotten about when it comes to support?
So many chefs are going to be opening up those oven doors, those grills, as well as starting up those crock pots for Super Bowl Sunday, as we all love to eat surrounding the big game. But how do you pick the perfect appetizers? Well, we are bringing Elon Musk buying Twitter has certainly gotten a lot of conversations going, not just on the social media platform, but also in the world, talking about free speech. Russian troops continue their attack on Ukraine. We have now been talking about this war for more than 50 days.
And you know, when I was watching this morning chat, I don't know if you heard some of those questions, but one of them was asking, you know, is this always from one moving object? They see it in the sky, and they said, no, there's even people that have been stationary that have seen these moving objects. But something that kind of struck interesting to me was the fact that they don't believe these are manned objects. I think that was a big emphasis of this morning that I caught. We appreciate your time, and I just want to know, a lot of people hoping that we're going to be reaching that peak soon. Have we reached our peak with inflation yet? I know, Mark, that things have been kind of hectic over these last few days. Why don't you talk about some of those latest developments that you've been seeing? What have been some of the happenings around the city as Putin continues his attack on your people and your country? We are bringing on here with us on Live Now from Fox's Amy Kellogg. And Amy, I know this was probably some very scary moments for everyone who was watching when the swimmer passed out right there in the middle of the pool. New numbers have now said that there's more than 677,000 people who have fled from Ukraine since this invasion. Yeah, it's just interesting to see how they kind of do things differently when it comes to their hearings in their courtroom, rather us, and especially at a time when there's a lot of conflict between the United States and Russia. Of course, they're going to try to use this as much as possible to help them with other issues that they want to try to iron out with the U.S. Anything else you think important to add when it comes to this hearing and when it comes to our WNBA star facing these big charges? Has there been any stories of those people who are crossing the border, who did have to unfortunately leave their homes with only things that they can carry? Anything about their journey that has stuck out to you when you've been out there lending your hand?
Across the country, temperatures are heating up, and there are a lot of safety reminders when it comes to taking your family outdoors. But I want to focus especially on children because their bodies react a lot differently to those high temperatures, especially once we start getting into those triple digits. We do have Tracy Fate here with us. She is a nurse with Banner Health, but also the Trauma Injury Prevention Coordinator. And Tracy, when it comes to these children, I know that there's a lot of warnings parents hear each and every single year, but let's first kind of explain why their bodies are so different than ours when it comes to a reaction to the heat.
Samaritan's Purse is not only helping with food, clothes, and medical supplies, but also they have now been building and airlifting a emergency field hospital that is being set up in Ukraine at this time. So we do want to bring in the president of Samaritan's Purse. He's joining us here on Live Now from Fox. We have Franklin Graham here with us, and we really appreciate your time. I know there's so many things that you guys are doing. Let's just go ahead and kind of talk about some of the remarkable efforts you guys are doing in Ukraine, and especially for those refugees who have crossed over that border.
The situation in Ukraine continues to worsen as Russian troops are pushing their way through across the country, now also taking control of a nuclear power plant. I have joining me here Monty Schumacher from Courage Ukraine. You're one of the co-founders. And Monty, we really appreciate some of that work that you've been doing. You just got back here to the United States. So let's just talk about, first of all, I know we want to get into your trip, but first let's just talk about what Courage Ukraine is, what kind of medical relief you're providing to all of those who've been affected by the war.
There's been so many stories of people who've had to leave the country, and of course so many who've had to stay behind to help with the fight. So what we want to do is continue to give you those updates happening here on Live Now from Fox. We are bringing in our Ukraine Parliament member, Marian Zablotsky, and you're joining us here live. I know it's late in the evening for you, so let's just go ahead and get an update on the latest since we've spoke to you a week ago. What kind of changes have you been seeing as far as the fight goes in your country?